Welcome to Modern Mindset, the show that picks the brains of the world's leading minds to help you unlock yours. Decoding the beliefs and strategies of global experts to give you an updated mindset to make the most of modern life. Hosted by the UK's most in-demand and highest-paid hypnotherapist, Adam Cox.
This is Modern Mindset, the show that picks the brains of the world's leading minds to help you unlock yours. I'm your host, Adam Cox, and joining me today, we've got a very special guest over from the States, Zach Babcock, who is the host of the Underdog Empowerment podcast. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Adam. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me, man.
More than welcome. More than welcome. So not only are you a host of a podcast, you're building very dominant brands. You have a certain intensity that you rarely see in the average person. Where did that intensity, that kind of relentlessness come from for you?
Man, what a great question, dude, right out the gate. Honestly, I get that intensity from, I almost wonder, it's weird because I'm working on a lot of stuff right now, like traumas and whatnot, but I get it from my dysfunction, my dark side, my shadow self, right? I get it from, not like, I tap into experiences that I had in my life, or if someone doesn't believe in me or, counts me out. You can call it the underdog mentality or whatnot, but I really just tap into that anger, aggression, or whatever, but I channel it to do good stuff with, if that makes sense.
Oh, to me, it makes sense. Some people would call it a polarity response. Tell someone they can't do something, tell them they're no good, and they're going to result in huge amount of resourcefulness to prove that person wrong. For my own personal experience, it was as a teenager and basically my mum telling me that, I wouldn't amount to much and I wouldn't be able to achieve very much. And I don't know if she was using reverse psychology or if the person who I was at that point in time didn't give her much, hope for the future. But her saying that did something to me where I was on a different trajectory after that point than before that. What kind of things have people kind of said to you that have really kind of got the fire in your belly going and made you even more focused?
Yeah, dude. I had a little bit of different with my mom. She was like the opposite. Like I got to give her the credit as far as like, I feel like she played such a huge role in developing the confidence that I have now, because man, even after my dad died when I was 7, she was always there for me, even after all the crap I put her through, all the boys' homes and institutions and juvenile detention centers that I was in. And then even in the prisons when I was an adult, she would always come and visit me. She'd always tell me I could do anything I put my mind to. She always told me how much she believed in me. And like, that gave me a sense of confidence, right? That I still have to this day. And I believe she helped shape and mold that. But, other things that, people have told me that have helped along the way, like, man, like, I know some people at the audience that are just listening to the audio only can't see the video, but right here in my office, I got this little poster. It hangs right there. It says, "I'm coming for everything they said I couldn't have." And when people like doubt me, like, because before this podcast, Underdog Empowerment, dude, anytime I tried to collaborate with any entrepreneur, nobody was taking me seriously. I'd just gotten out of prison a few years prior, and so I was just the ex-convict turned entrepreneur afterthought that nobody wanted to give the time of day to. And that was frustrating. It hurt too. And I turned that hurt and frustration and anger and use it as a source of fuel to go along with my inner reasons why I'm doing this, to help, go and get stuff done.
And that obsessiveness, your kind of intensity approach reminds me a little bit of David Goggins, and that is that some people have this unique ability to turn trauma, turmoil, disadvantage into the fuel that makes them go forward even further. What were the kind of traumas that you encountered that you felt actually could have broken one person, but for you put kind of fire in the belly and fuel in your engine?
Yeah, so many. There's probably even some that I can't even remember that happened, right? To give one example, I'm gonna give one that happened just a couple of years ago through my entrepreneurial journey after I got out and turned my life around. That was, dude, we had all of our bills were backed up and our water was shut off. We got 4 kids, credit cards maxed out, just the most, insanely financial stressful situation that I've ever been in my life. And it was like, we got to do something, or else we're going to be, evicted from our house soon, all this other stuff. And I went and got a title loan on my Chrysler Aspen just to join a mastermind to learn how to select my audience, craft an irresistible offer, and write the copy that converts. And people said I was crazy and like this, like talking, like a lot of close people are like, dude, it's stupid. Why would you do something like that? You're not guaranteed anything. You're paying $2,000 a month now to be in this mastermind, and there's nothing even guaranteed because of that. Long story short, that ended up, 8 months later, ended up having a 6-figure business as a result of that decision. But at the time, dude, that was extremely stressful, not knowing if I was going to be able to make enough money to feed my kids and have warm, the heat in the house and stuff, basic stuff like that. So yeah, that's one example.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, sometimes pressure and consequence can make people very resourceful. They become creative, they become determined. I think some people that have had maybe an easy childhood, an easy upbringing, there is this element of entitlement that if it doesn't come easy, I'm not going to go for it. But it seems like in your case, the challenges actually became almost a competitive advantage, because you're now up against people that haven't had that kind of tough ride that kind of made you stronger, if that makes sense.
100%, man. Dude, I don't like boast that much, just because I don't want to sound arrogant, because I'm not that type of person. I'm very confident, but I'm not an arrogant person. But it's the truth, man. Like when you go through certain things in life, when you go through the ringer, when you go through, like really trying and testing and hard situations, you become a stronger person as a result, man. And I'm grateful that I had the experience that I did, the 5 years in prison. I wouldn't take that away from nothing, because I wouldn't be who I am today without it.
Mm. And there is a perception, particularly in the US prison system, that it is relatively easy compared to other nations to become part of the prison system, and relatively difficult to kind of be rehabilitated and kind of start a new life and that kind of stuff. It kind of the rates of people that reoffend after leaving prison, very financially lucrative to the prison system, particularly in the States, which is privatized. Was that your experience, that it was kind of once you're in there, you're seeing the same faces, it's relatively difficult for people to give you a second chance?
Yeah, dude, I'm really glad that you asked that. I got a whole podcast called Convicted Life that we got into the prison systems because of that reason that you're talking about right there. I mean, look at it. Look at the recidivism rates in the U.S. And I'm not making any excuses or taking away any of the responsibility for convicted felons, because you made that choice to break the law and end up, in where you're at. But what I am saying is that if you look at the recidivism rates in the U.S. alone and compare them to any other country in the world, it dwarfs them. And it's a clear indicator that the system's built on money to make more money, and it's not built on to rehabilitate people. And yeah, it was just a bunch of revolving doors, a bunch of people. When I did my 4 years flat that I did, I seen a guy that literally came in and got out 3 different times while I was in there that 4 years. 3 different times in 4 years. That's crazy, man. But yeah, without a doubt.
Mm. And what was it for you? Because having seen that firsthand, people, they go in, they leave, they come back out again. Did that create a feeling of inevitability, that this is the script, this is the path for you, that this is going to happen to you? And if so, what did it take for you to break out of life script for you and take a different path?
Man, I had that right before I even went to prison. Like when I caught my cases, I was like, man, I'm just gonna be in trouble my entire life. Like this is it for, like, I literally believed that at one point in time in life. And then when I went to prison and going there, I remember, and I think it happened over time, but I was like, I'm going to get out. I don't want to be in here. Like I'm doing this sentence right here, but I'm going to get out and I'm not going to go back to doing the stuff that I was doing before. I want to live. I don't want to be in here basically. And so I had that. And when I got out though, the first time after doing the 4 years, I stayed out for about 2 years, and I didn't go back to the old life of doing the drugs or whatnot. I was drinking alcohol. But I was still young as the deal, and it really didn't click for me yet. And the drinking part, I ended up catching a DWI, and that's why I went back to prison. And that moment when I went back to prison, just 20 days before my twin sons were born, that's that final straw that broke that camel's back, because I woke up in jail and I was like, man, I'm getting ready to go back to prison and I'm going to miss out on my twin sons being born, when I couldn't wait to be a father, because my father died when I was 7. I was looking forward to that so much. And that pain, because that hurts so much, I can't even explain to you in words how painful that was. So realize that I'm not going to be there for my kids being born. But that's the stuff that got me to take the action. That pain was like, dude, I'm done. Like, this is enough. I can't do it anymore. And I made that commitment. It wasn't like interest. It was a full conviction of like, I don't care what I got to do. I'm getting out and I'm staying in my kid's life. And now here we are.
And I know there's a few therapists that listen to my podcast, and you'll recognize this maybe in the term point of threshold. So, there's a lot of people that would like to change. There's a lot of people that, have dreams, goals, but unless you get to the point where it's an absolute must, you're 100% committed to that outcome. You can sign up for these masterminds as you've done. You could, take the courses, you can set the goals, have the vision boards, but unless you reach that point of threshold where it becomes an absolute must, these are just kind of intentions rather than kind of commitments. And it seemed like for you were able to harness that pain of not being there for your twin's birth to actually reach that point of threshold where enough is enough now, you're on a different path. My cousin actually worked in the prison system here in the UK, female prison system. And she said that, a lot of the people, when she got to know the women in these, in the prison, she was saying that a lot of them, aren't necessarily the stereotype of a criminal, but more damaged people in some way. They've been exploited, they're addicted, they've been the result of, kind of various kind of traumas and wrongdoings. And this is their kind of response to it in a lot of cases. Did you see that in the prisons that you were in, that there's a lot of damaged people there? There's a lot of people trying to deal with mental health issues or trauma, and the system isn't really helping them? Or did you, in the majority, see these are criminals, they made choices to do things for certain reasons, and this is just justice taking place in this situation?
No, I mean, you're spot on with that, man. It really, most people in prison, from my experience, from the prisons that I were in and that I seen, most of the guys were good humans that made poor choices because of those traumas that they experienced in life, or the environment that they grew up in, or just not being exposed to what could truly be possible for them. Whatever the case may be, they're still good people, most of them. Yeah, there were, and then of course there were people that were just plain scum of the earth that need to be in prison. I know some people might hear me say that, like, oh, why would he say that about another human? Dude, it's reality. There's bad people in the world, and there's people that are just gone, right? And I ran into quite a few of them in prison, but for the most part, most people in there were good people that just made poor choices.
And for a lot of people's frame of reference that haven't been in jail, they're going to look to Hollywood and TV shows and kind of things like that. In your experience, what do these TV shows get right in the main? Are the gangs real? Is the kind of retaliation, constant threats of violence and things like that? What bits do they get right, and what is just complete Hollywood creating a myth or a misconception about the actual prison system?
I wish I haven't watched one of those shows in a really long time. I think the last time I watched one of those, it was when I was actually in prison in 2012, probably. So I don't know what the newer ones are like, but from the ones that I've seen before, they got it right for a lot part. They overhyped some of it, of course. That's what it's always going to be. It's always going to be overhyped. Like I can speak from personal experience. The Michael Brown situation in Ferguson, Missouri, they got killed by a cop or whatnot. I'm from Ferguson, Missouri, and I was in prison when this stuff happened, and I went and seen the stuff on the TV, and I'm like, holy heck, is my mom all right? And I went and called my mom to see if she's okay, and you know, she's like, yeah, I'm okay. The media's making it out to be a lot worse than what it actually is, but it's still an unfortunate, you know, sad thing that happened. But yeah, man, I'd say they overhype it a little bit, but they got it spot on. Like stuff like that does happen. There's gangs and violence, and you know, as soon as you get in there, you can best believe that you're going to have to fight when you first get in there. And if you, even if you're not a good fighter, but you can hold your own, if you just stand up for yourself, even if you try to fight and you get your butt kicked, they won't mess with you anymore. For the most part, because you show that you'll stand up for yourself. But if you don't, then you're an easy target, and they're going to come get everything you got. So yeah, I wish I could give you a better answer. I just haven't watched one of those shows in quite a bit of time.
No, I imagine it would be different, you know, anyway. If you've spent time there, the last thing you want to do is kind of watch TV shows about a place that you've kind of made a decision to kind of move away from. So I can understand that. Was there any positives outside of you reaching that point of threshold and turning your life in a different direction? Was there any skills or attributes that you learned while in the prison system that actually you're grateful for now, you know, albeit in a different context?
You know, I love psychology a lot, like yourself. Probably not on your level of understanding of it, but man, dude, my 5 years in prison, I'd almost put that up against anybody that has a PhD in psychology or whatnot, just from that experience. You know, being able to read people really quickly because you have to, and you got to be able to understand if you're in a dangerous situation or not. It's literally psychological warfare 24/7. And so that experience has really helped me be more empathetic and just intuitive of being able to pick up on things from people. And we all have that power. We're all humans, right? But just being able to develop that skill further, I mean, I wouldn't take it back for anything, because it's really helped me with my communication with everybody that I come in contact with.
Yeah, being able to read people respond to situations and kind of, I guess, elicit, you know, intentions, because I would imagine there's a higher level of deceit and kind of consequence in an environment like that, where, you know, if in real life you don't do what you say you're going to do, no big deal, like nobody really, you know, is that bothered. In an environment where you see the same people all the time, you know, I guess that's an increased element of importance, that you can take people for what they say they're going to do, and there's consequences if you don't.
Oh yeah, that's a big one. What you just came up right there. Like, if you better do what you say you're going to do, and if you don't, you ain't nothing. And then you'll have problems all the way around the board with everybody in there. So that was a huge thing. It's, you don't have to be some tough guy at all. You don't got to be tough at all, but you just got to do what you say you're going to do. You know, be a stand on your word was huge in there.
Which is ironic in many ways, that I guess, you know, one of the key attributes that you would, you know, assume, you know, with, you know, people in a prison system is that they can't be trusted. And yet it seems like there's kind of rules within the organization that mean that integrity is actually kind of valued quite high, you know, within the environment that you're in. One of the things that I saw, and I remembered a post just prior to this, where you talked about being in isolation. And I think for many people, this idea of being in isolation is kind of like perceived to be a form of torture, perceived to be a form of brutal, inhumane punishment. What was your experience, and what was the context that you were kind of put in isolation, and what did you take from that experience?
Yeah, I bet isolation over like a really long period of time could probably be a bad thing. I did it for 2 months, where I was in the hole, which is the prison inside of the prison. You're in an 8x10 cell. You can walk 3 steps one way, and that's it. But man, solitude is powerful. There's power in solitude. So much so that I do it every single week. I go out to the woods hiking alone by myself, just to get that solitude, just because there's you really truly get to know yourself, and you can discover a lot about yourself in those moments, and you know that. But yeah, I mean, I guess over a longer period of time, it could be very detrimental because we are social creatures, right? And we want to be a part of the tribe and be, our biggest fear next to death is being exiled from the tribe. Yeah, man, but I wouldn't take it back for anything because it helped me really work through a lot of stuff that I was going through at the time when my sister passed away from a heroin overdose while I'm in the hole for 2 months. And I remember this every single day for the first 3 days. After I found out that she's dead, I'm in this 8x10 cell that I'm trapped in. And all I could think about was all the mean things that I ever said and did to my sister, the goodbye that I'd never get to tell her, just all this stuff right now is just eating at me and like driving me crazy and just making me feel like big enough to sit on a penny and swing my feet from it, right? Just low. And but on that third day though, I snapped out of it and just asked myself, I'm not a religious person, but I believe in God. I'm spiritual. I do it on my own. I don't go to church or none of that. And I was like, God, what can I do right now to find happiness and peace? And that question led me to the right answer because it was the right question to ask at that time. And long story short, I developed this crazy OCD routine. Every single day, did the same thing at the same exact time. I won't go into detail because it was wild. But through that process, so, I was reading scriptures every single day. I was writing every single day and just thinking about it. And what's crazy is at the end of that 2 month stay in that hole, I found a peace of mind, probably the most peaceful that I've ever been in my entire life. Seriously, even to this day, the most peace that I've been at myself ever. And I was inside of a prison cell. I was in the hole inside of prison, which is like one of the places that you'd least expect to find that peace of mind. It was wild.
Mm. What was the epiphany, the realization that you had in that 2 months that you think enabled you to have such kind of peace and acceptance?
I think it was a mixture of a lot of things, man. I think it was like the healing process of losing my sister. Like I did a lot of crying and like working through a lot of that stuff. And it was good to go through that and to get that weight off. That, and then also up until that point, I'd spent all of my life trying to impress other people. We all do, but I did it more than your average person. I would do stupid stuff just to be accepted by other people. I was never like my own true man. You know what I'm saying? Like I always wanted to fit in with other people and be accepted and hoping to be enough, all that. And when I went through that process, that was the first time in my life where I said, I don't care. Like, I'm not going to go out here when I get out of this hole. I'm not going to go back out in the yard and do stupid stuff to be accepted by the quote unquote cool people in prison anymore. I'm going to stand on my own. I'm going to do my own thing because I'm my own man or whatnot. And I think that, I guess that came from the process. It just happened though, going through that adversity that I went through.
Mm. It seems to me like, you reached a point where you could accept yourself fully rather than needing the acceptance of other people. And that's a very profound and powerful realization. You can value other people's attention and validation, but the moment you don't need it, it changes the power dynamic so that, if you like me, that's cool, but I don't need you to like me. And then you're not coming from that place of weakness or neediness, which it sounds like you reach that point in that solitude. And that's a very powerful distinction. I think a lot of people, if they do make it, they're different people after that point. How did society treat you? How did the people around you treat you when you left prison? You've paid your price, your penalty. Justice is served. Is it a case of, hey, welcome back to society. Here's a job. What kind of resistance, what kind of prejudice maybe did you experience?
Yeah, lots of prejudice and discrimination. I tell you what, got out. And the last time when I got out, I had my twin sons that were 8 months old now. I missed their birth, and I got out and hit the ground running. I was like, all right, I got to find a job, got to find a way to provide. I don't care what I got to do. I'm gonna do whatever I got to do to be in my kid's life every single day. And so whatever we got to do, let's make it happen. Well, I started looking for jobs, and every time you fill out an application in the U.S., you got to check that little box that says you're a convicted felon. And so I felt like, being around people, like, when I'm going to apply for these jobs, I felt like, people didn't value me as a human being, that they looked down on me for being a convicted felon. Like they thought me lesser of a human just because of these decisions that I made in my past that I paid but even though I paid my debt to society, it's like still being hanging over my head. And it was because, you know, I couldn't get a job because of that. So it was difficult in that sense. But I'm grateful because I had to fight harder to get to where I am now. And through that process, I became a stronger individual by working through that. So I'm grateful for it. But at the same time, I think about, like, you know, guys that are coming out that maybe not have been as fortunate as me with, you know, maybe their mindset wasn't where mine was, you know, and so they get out and they get discouraged by the stuff and end up going back. I just think about stuff like that a lot, but yeah, man, it's crazy.
What do you think defines an underdog? You know, what are the common attributes that mean, yeah, if you have these things, you're definitely an underdog?
You know what, man? I feel like all of us can relate to the underdog. I feel like we all get that underdog in us. And the reason why I say that is if you're striving for something in life, you know, big that you've never done before, it depending on how big, honestly. Yeah. So let me take that back. Anybody that's striving for something significantly huge, like big to where it's like, man, the chances of you pulling that off are not likely. You know what I mean? Because you're striving to be great. You're striving to reach your potential or whatnot. I feel like that classifies you as an underdog. If you're striving for something that you haven't done before that's that big, and you know the chances of you making it happen are unlikely. Um, but for what you know, that could be like the general thing, right? But how I define underdog is an alpha underdog is, you know, I'll tell you this is, and this can be for women too, but like I'm a real big into marketing right now, whatnot, and in psychology and stuff. So I'm really clear on you know who it is that we're talking to every time, and it's always who I was yesterday or just starting out anywhere between. But it's that alpha male entrepreneur, rough around the edges, has this crazy big vision, so big that most people don't even believe that they're going to be able to make it happen. But he doesn't give a crap because he's going to do whatever it takes to level up and win, because he's committed and convicted of winning. So that's alpha underdog definition.
And I think there's a lot of things in society that encourage big dreams, you know, and that might be, you know, you see high profile people on social media, on TV, you know, actually achieving this kind of stuff. And I think more in the States than anywhere else in the world, there's this kind of element of you can do whatever you want to do. Okay. So you've got this kind of high level of aspiration, you know, that's out there. What are the key obstacles that you think break people down so that they give up on those dreams? Because I'm sure nobody starts off thinking, yeah, I'll probably never do that. They probably have these things that they want. What is it that happens throughout their life that damages their mindset? So rather than like you know, you got knocked down, it's kind of like, okay, that's fuel on the fire. You kind of go for it. What do you think happens to erode people's mindset or belief to make them just give up on their dreams?
Man, parenting, school system, and society over time, just going through it, man. Like we start as parents, you hear your parents say no a lot. No, can I have it? No, you can't, you know, because you got to as a parent sometime. And I used to always say, like, I'm not going to condition my kids and tell them no all the time, but here I am telling my kids no whenever they ask for certain things, because you have to tell them no sometimes. So that plays a part into it, you know. And then sometimes, and I'm really conscious of this, man. That's why I'm doing a lot of stuff that I'm doing right now to heal these traumas, because like sometimes like a parent can legit just be telling you no for something, but like the child takes it a different way of, you know, of interpreting it, and might be interpreting the no as like, no, I'm not enough, or no, I won't be successful in achieving my dreams or whatnot. And maybe the parent doesn't even know that they're conditioning the child that way, you know? So that, and then school, I mean, at least in the US, the school systems are a joke. It's retarded. I was dude, like I quit going to school in third grade because school was not for me. It's not a cookie cutter model. It's not for everybody. Just because somebody doesn't do good in math and taking tests when they're whatnot doesn't mean that they won't go and be successful in life. I'm a clear example of that. and I'm not the only one. There's plenty more. But during school, though, you have teachers and stuff that could be bad people and talk down and influence you in that way, shape, or form. And I don't know. I just think over time, the way society is, I feel like it teaches you to conform, to do what everybody else does, to play it safe and all this other crap. And I feel like that gets to a lot of people over time.
And I guess how people evaluate, success or failures, because, if you do attempt goals, as everyone does in life, and sometimes, you don't get the result that you want first time, there is, I think, a lack of guidance that actually, you're not meant to get it right first time. Sometimes you're meant to learn from a few setbacks on the way until you get there. But we don't necessarily teach children resilience or determination or tenacity or the longer game. There is this kind of, I think society promotes this idea of instant gratification. And if it doesn't come immediately, well, people either don't want it or they don't want to work for it. And I think also that can make these bigger dreams elusive and fuel the fantasy of, okay, I'm going to get everything I want by winning the lottery or some instant kind of success rather than the work that goes in. But whenever I see your content, you communicate a work ethic, like a real, okay, yeah, you can get what you want, but you've got to work for it. Where do you think that work ethic comes from you?
That's a good question. Where does that work ethic come from? I think it comes from a lot of places. One being going through what I went through, that I put myself through, throughout life, being at the low end of it for a real long time, you develop a sense of hunger that probably isn't developed when you're at the top, or if you were at the top and silver spoon fed your entire life, you probably don't have that hunger like you do whenever you're without. And so I believe it comes from there. And also I believe mostly where I draw upon it is I think about death every single day, and not in a bad way, but in a way that it reminds me that time is finite. I only got a certain, and I know this is going to sound cheesy, but this is what I do. And this is what helps me. But my time's finite. I remember I'm going to die every single day, and I only got a little bit of time to do all the things that I'm trying to do to reach my potential. So that helps. And then I visualize my life at the end of at the very end, when I'm on my deathbed, and I visualize how I would feel if I didn't give it the work ethic that I do towards it. And if I didn't, at least give it my all to try to achieve. Like, I'll be cool if I have goals that I didn't achieve, as long as I gave it my all and did everything in my power to make it happen. I'll be completely fine, content, and happy with myself if I knew that I truly gave it all. But if I didn't, if I know that, like, damn, I didn't hit that goal, and if I could have, maybe I could have, if I would have gave it my all, that would eat me alive inside. It would literally make me miserable and drive me crazy. And so I tap into that to act with a sense of urgency now. It's like using the pain of that to run away from it, to act with urgency now to make it happen.
I think that's a really powerful model, because a lot of people do the exact opposite. They dabble in things and they kind of only, kind of give it a small amount, 20% effort, so that if they do fail, then they can justify, hey, well, I didn't try that hard anyway. So, there is that element of, it protects the ego, but it means you don't achieve very much. And it sounds like you've kind of flipped that on its head, where, for you, that element of the disappointment in yourself of not giving it your all is more painful than whatever failure you would experience on the way by giving it your all, is a really interesting dynamic there. I've worked with a few people that have a specific phobia, fear of death, called thanatophobia. And they, like you, think about death all the time, but in a really disempowering way. So they'll literally imagine themselves rotting in a grave and occur to them of the meaningless of life. And the key way that you transform that phobia in any thanatophobic is you get them realizing, well, the purpose of life is that it is finite, and it's what you do with your time that gives it meaning, not anything else, if that makes sense. So that kind of distinction, I'm sure you didn't have thanatophobia, but you've arrived at the same resolution for those people that struggle with death in a meaningless way. You've given it meaning by it's what you do and it's the impact that you have. Do you think about legacy? Because many people, when they think about their life, particularly if they've got children, as you do with your twins, do you think about what legacy you're going to leave after you're gone? You know, given that you think about death so often.
Yeah, I mean, everything I'm doing now is all legacy plays. It's I'm always thinking about that, and um, I could probably do this a little overboard, but I don't think it is. But I'm really like, I got a whole methodology and stuff of how I do stuff, and I'll spare you the details, but I know exactly where I'm going life. To the finer detail for the next 90 days, over the next 15 years, legacy plays, everything all the way into my deathbed. Like it's on my vision board. Like I got me laying in bed, peaceful and happy, dying from old age. That's it. No like crazy disease or anything. And my family is all there. They're at peace. They're not freaking out. It's like we all know it's coming. We all get to say our goodbyes. Like I know everything. I know how it look, feels, touch, all that. And I forgot what the question was.
What do you think your legacy will be? What impact will you have on the world when you're not here anymore?
Yeah, you talking about legacy. So yeah, mine is a 9% recidivism rate or lower in the U.S. Through the prison systems. Like grandiose legacy, right? But then also with my kids. So my legacy with them is that they know these three things, and I tell them this every single day. I love you no matter what. I believe in you no matter what, and I got your back no matter what. And as long as they know those three things, man, I'm good. You know, and we sync up every day, and I'm present with them, because before this year I wasn't present with my kids. And it's crazy because the whole reason why I went down this path was to be in my kids' life. And then I became an entrepreneur, and then had this limiting belief that I needed to sacrifice everything else right now to build the business, so that way I could have time and financial freedom. And it was just bull. But anyways, I started going on a tangent. But this year I've gotten, you know, I'm living a full life now, not just the business. But that's the type of legacy, a great father, so that way I can break the cycle that happened up until this point. So where now my kids are going to be in their kids' life, and so on. That legacy right there. I have different legacies for different things. I won't go through each and every one of them unless you want to talk about that. But yeah, I have a clear definition for, like, as a husband, as a father, as a businessman, with convicted felons, all this stuff. I have a legacy that I want to leave behind.
And what is that rate in the US prison system at the moment? You want to get it down to 9%. What is it currently?
So it's different in every single state, but it's going to average anywhere from 35 to 45% is
wow
general numbers, which is crazy.
That is huge. Yeah. I mean, that's a grandiose goal. I mean, that's a fantastic goal. And what do you think is your single biggest challenge? Because it seems to me like this is a system, you know, and that system is built on, you know, in the same way that I'm sure you have metrics about, you know, your podcast and the goals that you're pursuing. These prison companies, they have the same one. You know, they're looking at how they increase, you know, revenue per, you know, prisoner and length of time and all this kind of stuff. How do you challenge a systematic model that is fueled on a reliance on people reoffending?
Yeah, it's a crazy big challenge, and that's why I love it. And the odds of us pulling it off are slim to none, to be honest with you. And so the chances of us making this happen, probably not. In other people's mind, not in my mind, but in other people's mind. There's no way these guys are gonna do it. But yeah, it's challenging, and so I don't know what it's all going to look like, because, you know, it's going to change. You just got to start doing stuff and getting that feedback, and then making pivots and whatnot until you find the way. But we got our start with Convicted Life podcast. We launched that, and then we got it into the prison systems, and it's currently on 115,000 devices in prisons across the U.S. right now. And so that's our start. And so what we're focused on right now is building the audience, because we know with this podcast that we're giving them, it's better than any resource that they got right now. It just is. I went through the system myself. The programs and stuff that they give you in there, man, it's complete utter garbage. Like, it's a waste of taxpayer dollars, literally, because you can't even relate to the people that are teaching it to you, and then the curriculum that they give you is useless. Really is. No, like, real life, like, tangible, crossover there. And so we know that this podcast, me and both Travis, my co-hosts, have both been in prison and then gotten out and became successful in our lives. But we also interview a lot of other people in different fields that have been in prison and then got out and find a way. So we're giving them the roadmap of getting out of prison to start a successful contractor business, or giving them the roadmap of getting out of prison and starting a digital agency and whatever. We got all these different areas on that episode. So we're building that community, and then I could see what it turns into is probably going to be a lot of different programs and stuff that people can go through to get specific results, depending on what it is, whether they're wanting to become entrepreneurs and start their own business, or, work for someone else. We want to help them do that, because I know that's going to be the key, is to be able to help them make money fairly quickly when they come out, but also they need that part to live and to provide for their families, but they also need the support group, the environment, people, places, and things, which is hopefully what we're going to be able to provide for them as well, coming out of prison.
It sounds really powerful, because you're giving them two essential things. One is evidence, so a role model. Other people are doing this. They're leaving the prison system, and they're not going back. And here's how they're doing it. You're giving them the strategies as well. And if they listen to enough of those episodes, they're going to find a strategy that they can resonate with. And every episode is giving them evidence that it's not a guarantee that they're going to go back into the system. So I think that's really powerful. If there was one element from your experience that if you could gift someone a particular belief or approach to mindset that they could apply in their life that would dramatically improve their life, what would that be from all your experience?
Man, my biggest takeaway that's helped me, and it's cliche, but most cliches are that for a reason, because they're true. But what's helped me the most in life is understanding that everything wrong and right in my life is my fault, and I have complete control of everything in my life. Now, when you hear me say that, a lot of people are like, well, no, you don't have complete control of everything in your life. And you are right. Like, I can't control that corona, this crazy, whatever you want to call it, virus stuff, whatever happened. I couldn't control that. But I always, no matter what, I can always control. Like, dude, I was in prison. Like, you can take away all my freedom, everything, but you can't take away and I got this, I don't know if you've ever read the book, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Viktor Frankl, yeah, great book.
Yeah, dude, it's a life-changing book. But that's the main lesson in there too. It's literally, that's the reason why I resonate with so much, because I literally have experienced it in my own life before I even ever read the book. But no matter what, people can take away all your freedom, everything, but they cannot take away your freedom to choose how you respond to whatever happens. So meaning a tornado comes and wrecks your house and like destroys everything that you've worked for your entire life, and now you got to start from ground zero. That sucks. It does. And you couldn't control the fact that tornado just came and destroyed everything that you worked for your entire life. You can either choose to be bitter about it and just be miserable and go and continue to go and mess up your life afterwards, or you can choose to take in that pain, deal with it, and then use it as a source of power to go out and do good things with, and to rebuild your life stronger than ever. Whatever you choose, it's your choice. It's nobody else's choice. It's your choice. So we always have a choice of how we respond to whatever happens in our life. And if you can grasp that and understand that, you are more powerful than most people in this world. Because let's just be honest, most people in this world, their default is victim mentality. It's not my fault.
And looking for someone to blame. Yeah, totally. I couldn't agree with you more. That 100% personal responsibility, accepting that there are things you can't change, like COVID and political structures and things like that, but being 100% responsible for what you do or how you respond to what happens to you. Such a powerful principle, and I couldn't agree with that more. That's really powerful. If someone's listening right now and they want to connect with you, they want to learn more about your podcast, they want to learn more about what you're doing for the US prison systems, how can they learn more?
Yeah, I'll keep it super simple. Underdogempowerment.com. That's my website for the podcast. Right there on the homepage, we got Underdog Empowerment Podcast. You could subscribe to that on whichever platform you prefer. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, all my social medias are there. We can get connected wherever you like to hang out at. Hope to see you guys. And Adam, thanks for having me on your show, man. I had a blast today.
Yeah, Zach, it's been an absolute privilege to speak with you. Thank you so much for joining me on the show. And to you at home, thanks for joining me on Modern Mindset. See you again soon for more.
Thank you for listening to Modern Mindset with Adam Cox. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review. Modern Mindset, picking the brains of the world's leading minds to help you unlock yours.